Today we're talking about possessive aggression, otherwise known as resource guarding. If your dog growls at you when you walk by his food bowl or snaps at you when you try to take his bone, this video is for you. First of all, what is possessive aggression, right? Possessive aggression or resource guarding is when a dog lunges, snaps, growls, bares his teeth, any of the above. So basically shows aggression around items that he feels are important. So that could be a bone, a toy, a food item, a food bowl. It could be a couch. It could be a bed. Some veterinary behaviorists will say that a person is a resource, and some veterinary behaviorists will say that the dogs who are aggressive when someone approaches their favorite person are actually afraid and defending their own personal space and proximity to that person. Regardless, we're going to group all of that together today because you can treat it all in about the same way. Each dog is going to have their own list, and some of them can be really long, of the things that are worth being aggressive over. Don't be surprised if your dog is aggressive over food that you drop on the floor, but is not aggressive over food in his food bowl. Or maybe he is aggressive when there's paper towels on the floor, but not a notebook of paper. It's your dog's list, and it's your job to get to know that list so that you can be safe and your dog can feel safe too. Aggression over items is a normal behavior. So it's normal to compete with other dogs or other beings in your environment over things that you as a dog feel are really important to you. When dogs get a diagnosis of possessive aggression or resource guarding, that behavior's gone a little haywire, right? So what are the things that cause that normal behavior to evolve into something that's problematic? As is typical with medicine, there isn't one answer. First of all, these dogs are generally anxious or fearful dogs. So all the things that create anxiety and fear for any other problem can create it in this situation as well. That's going to be the dam being sick while the puppies were in utero. That is going to be abusive training methods, or a poor start to life, or lack of socialization, right? So all of those factors are going to go into fear, anxiety, conflict, phobia, stress, distress. That is all going to be a part of these possessive aggression dogs. First, we probably should separate out in our minds dogs who are aggressive over edible items, right? And dogs that are not, because these may be two different subsets of dogs. Sometimes dogs develop possessive aggression or resource guarding because of things that we do. So let's say that you use a shock collar or a pinch collar to correct your dog as he goes for something on the ground, or you're trying to teach him to step away from his food bowl. So you leash him up, and each time he steps towards it, you jerk him on the pinch collar. That causes conflict and fear, and sometimes when dogs don't know what to do, they get frustrated and they show aggression. Let's say that you taught leave it by throwing food on the ground. Okay, and then as your dog came toward it, you put your foot over the food, and sometimes you moved your foot to get your dog to move out of the way. Those kinds of methods set up an adversarial relationship around food and can lead your dog to become aggressive over food. So obviously, we don't want to do that. Illness can be a major factor. And of course, gastrointestinal illness is one of our leading factors when we look at dogs with resource guarding, because dogs can be hungry and nauseous at the same time. So they want the food, but they're too sick to eat the food, and that causes them to become aggressive over the food. It's not just gastrointestinal disease, though. There are lots of different systemic diseases that can cause changes in appetite or nausea that could lead to a resource guarding or possessive aggression behavior. There's some evidence, at least from one published thesis paper, that this could be a heritable trait. In other words, that dams and sires who have resource guarding or possessive aggression could pass on this trait to their pups. But of course, we need a lot more research in this area to really figure out if that's true. There's also some evidence that early life experience, how the breeder sets up the pen where the dam and her puppies are kept, whether the breeder kind of manages interactions that are going haywire, whether they help dogs to nurse or allow competition, can affect how competitive the dog is later on in life as it relates to items. And we don't really know whether competitiveness can turn into a possessive aggression behavior, but competitiveness plus anxiety plus a person who uses training methods that cause confusion and conflict, bam, you have a dog with possessive aggression. People all want to know the same thing, right? So like, what do we do now? Okay, so first of all, you're going to need to take your ego, put it in your little hand, and set it aside, okay? Because when dogs growl over stuff, people really take this as a hit to their ego. I bought the bone, I saved your life from the rescue, I gave you this beautiful house and free health care. What is your problem? Just hand me the bone. Okay, but that's not how a dog's brain works, and they don't know how much money you've spent on them, and they're living in the here and now. They want to keep the bone, so they're growling at you, okay? So one of the best things you can do after you set your ego aside is to walk away. That feels wrong. I hear you, but it's right. Believe me. Because if you confront the dog, you will push the dog into more aggression. If not at that moment, future interactions will kaboom, be very aggressive. So you're going to walk away. You're going to use your brain, not your brawn, and let that dog decompress, okay? Later on, you can come back and train with a positive reinforcement force-free trainer and teach your dog to give items back to you. Or you may need to work with a veterinary behaviorist. It doesn't mean that your dog can't have the things that he likes. It means that he can have those things, special toys or bones or whatever, in a safe place, in a room where the door is shut or a baby gate is up, or maybe it's a crate in a comfortable, quiet place for him. So he gets his items, but he doesn't have those items in the open space where you might accidentally encounter him and he might feel the need to be aggressive. Another thing you can do is trade up, but the way you trade up is going to affect how your dog responds. So trading up means offering something better than your dog has, okay, in exchange for the item. But don't come rushing at your dog with a piece of steak like this, right? Because that's a threat. Don't go leaning over your dog to hand the food or put it up by his nose. That's a threat. So the best thing you can do is walk away. But what if you do have to take that item? You're going to stand away from your dog, okay? Shoulder to the dog, as far away as you can reasonably, and still toss your treats. You're going to toss those treats into a treat trail all the way into another room, close a door or a baby gate, then pick up the item, okay? What you don't want to do is get bitten trying to do this, safety first, and also you don't want to push your dog to be aggressive. You don't want to drop a bunch of treats on the ground and then have your dog eat them and rush back to the item just as you're picking it up and nail you, okay? Treat trail, closed door, or a baby gate, then pick up item. Another thing to consider is that if you have participated in the type of training that I mentioned earlier, the damage is done, okay? You cannot unlearn something. What you need to do now is build some trust with your dog. Abandon that type of training. You may need to work with a professional like me, a board-certified veterinary behaviorist, or a force-free dog training professional, but you will have some trust earned back that you're going to have to do before you're going to be able to tackle that aggression. Back off. Leave your dog alone and let them decompress. Number 2, trade up if you can in a safe way. If you cannot, back off. Number 3, get professional help from a force-free dog training professional and or a board-certified veterinary behaviorist. Number 4, get your dog checked out for illness. Advocate for your dog and ask for a full panel of blood work, a fecal, and a urinalysis, including a thyroid test. Finally, don't let any dog with any aggression ever interact with kids. Even if you think it's safe, it's not safe. So just keep them separated. Possessive aggression or resource guarding is not about dominance. It's not a personal affront to you. It's about fear. It's about anxiety. It's about distrust. And it's about an environment of scarcity that is really almost always created by us. Your dog is not bad. They're telling you they're not okay and they need help. There is help. There is hope. There's professionals like me here to support you.